Good morning and welcome to this online gathering of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock. My name is Rebecca Retzel. I'm a member of the church and currently serving as co-chair of the worship arts team. It is a joy to be with you this morning. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we are so glad that you have chosen to worship with us today. I know we are not able to meet in person, but we have these online services, hopefully to help you connect, to be comforted, to feel inspired and restored as you continue being the you that you are. And if you've been tuning into these services for a while and feel like you might be a you, we would love to connect with you. Please reach out to us at our office. You can email our staff, uuclr@uuclr.org. We would love to get to know you. Today we have a special guest returning to our pulpit. Jake Hearen, also known as Little Shell, will be joining us to give the message this morning. We are grateful that he is joining us and offering up these words to help us be connected as a community. Jake was born in Texas, moved to Tacoma for military and college reasons, and is an aspiring UU minister about to graduate from Union Theological Seminary. We thank him, and we thank all of you for being a part of us this morning. Our service will begin shortly.
Talofa, Yokoso, Haokola. There are many ways that we welcome one another into the spaces that we inhabit. And when we do, it is the affirmation of community.
Songs of spirit like a prayer, breathing in the ambient air, singing in the
Hello, I am David McCullough. Please join me in the affirmation of covenant, saying, love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. I light the chalice with these words. Beyond the visible spectrum, echoes of their chants within caverns, tempting with shadows of something more, just beyond the torchlight. The explorers transfiguring, perpetually becoming and extending, up to the surface, up to the mountains, out to the planets, out to the stars, out to all that is, and that we can become beyond the visible spectrum.
Today is the day that commemorates the victims of acts of violence based on religion or belief. And what I invite you to do is to take a moment to ground yourself from a comfortable position, whether it be seated or standing. Feel yourself connected with the ground, with the earth beneath you. As you fill your lungs, notice the quality of the air, the warmth, the coolness. As you breathe in and out, listen to the wind that you create. Listen to the environment that is around you. Know that we are part of this world. And as we think about those in this world who have been harmed by a religion, a belief, any form of thought, know that as we move forward, we will cease that harm. We will stop that. And with a deep breath in, I want you to internalize that intention.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Love incarnate drives in the sea. Move in the hand, ignite the shape of joy.
we are going. Heaven knows where we are going. But we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. But we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah. We are going, heaven knows where we are going. But we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. But we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah.
First time I saw My Fair Lady, it was because a friend had a role in a local production. I knew that Pygmalion, something that I had read in high school, served as source material for the musical when it was written. And while it is not directly based on it, comparisons can be drawn to the film Pretty Woman. And I know I've enjoyed that. So given this, I expected to have an enjoyable time while also supporting a friend that was pursuing one of their passions. Now, little did I realize that rage, blinding, seething rage, would sweep over me before the first song, Why Can't the English, even ended. Now see, I was incensed because the song laced an extra flourish that turned an exemplification of linguistic differences into a classist diatribe. And on one hand, equating an individual's ability to communicate with their intellectual capability appears logical. The accumulation of experiences both in the controlled classroom environment as well as in the variability of the real world should nurture an expanded vocabulary and a refined gesticulation. I would certainly hope that my physician is able to speak in a nuanced manner, not only to myself, but anyone else that needs to be aware of my care plan. I do not expect this same thing from someone such as a coworker or a neighbor that is living down the street. However, this often broaches absurdity as it transforms into an enforcement of social oppressions such as classism, racism, etc. Equating somebody's speech, how it is said, when it is said, or even aspects that go unsaid or unpracticed, with an individual's worth and dignity is frequently a baseless accusation that actually inhibits the cultivation of wholesome relationships. The impact of such attitudes can be seen in statements and interactions made by United States Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. On occasions, Justice Thomas has actually been asked about why he seems to remain silent for the most part during in-person argumentation and other events. Many reasons have been given over the years for his silence, such as a preference to listen to lawyers, which has been characterized by many as a sign of respect, or even the simple difficulty of getting a word in during an unmoderated discussion. Now, far be it from me to tell Justice Thomas that his assessment is inaccurate. But one aspect that he has brought up over the years is the influence of the Gullah language during his formative years. Now, Gullah is a Creole language found along the Atlantic coastal regions, created by multiple African and North American indigenous and even English languages during the slave trade. Justice Thomas mentions that he was ridiculed during childhood because of how he spoke English. It came off relatively unpolished and unsophisticated. Well, the natural development of his accent as a multilingual individual, as well as an incomplete code switching that happens during formative years, influenced his speech patterns and listening habits for decades then on. I find this most discouraging because it actually says nothing about Justice Thomas's intellectual aptitude or ability to conduct deductive reasoning. His work as a lawyer and judge is a much better indicator of how well he can actually engage topics such as LGBTQ concerns or indigenous rights than any communication fumbling that he might possess. Even in the sources of our tradition, we have notable examples that tell us to not hold someone's language abilities against them. Were I to take the time to actually ask everyone viewing this service how they might describe Moses, most of the responses would be skewed from historicity. I would wager that a significant portion of the replies would probably highlight in some way Charlton Heston's commanding presence in the 1956 production of the Ten Commandments. This is not actually the case, as Moses was known to have speech difficulties, possibly a stutter. Thus, while he had the privileged upbringing of being adopted by royalty that allowed him to have a relatively well-read personality for the time period, he was still self-conscious about engaging others for fear that they might think of him as a suitable leader. Moses encounters God's presence as a burning bush in Exodus chapter 4, who tells him that he will appear before Pharaoh to demand the Jews be released from bondage. And even then, Moses says, "O my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." Moses' eloquence did not matter in this particular story, purely looking at just the human element. Many other factors make him a suitable choice to lead the Jews out of Egypt, such as an ability to adapt to new information, how to build relationships with others. The ability to communicate is just one piece of the puzzle. Now, we attend church, UU churches in particular, because we want to learn how to better advocate the ethical obligations and moral imperatives that we have emphasized as a collective and bring those into the greater world. However, we are finding that we need to review and revise not only what we communicate these values to be to others, but how we speak about them amongst ourselves. Many congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association have proposed the addition of an eighth principle and adopted it. It reads, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions." Now, there are those within Unitarian Universalism who look at these 7 principles that we have already accepted as part of our greater covenant and cry that this proposition is nothing more than an unnecessary redundancy. In a more perfect world, the face value of this allegation holds up because every individual searching for truth and meaning would strive for justice and equity. All beings who create the interdependent web of existence would be treated with worth and dignity while encouraging spiritual growth. Peace and liberty will resonate from our congregations across the world community and back. But we live in a world where phrases like "all men are created equal," a well-known phrase that appears in the Declaration of Independence, cannot be understood without a thorough exegesis. I wish the misunderstanding stemmed from the term men, that we need to explain it is nothing more than a gender-neutral application of gendered language, such as the colloquial usage of dudes or girl with a U. Unfortunately, the contentious word is actually at the very beginning of that phrase, all. Our modern understanding of the word and its application, the way many of us have learned it, is expansive and inclusive. Each and every human being born on this planet matters. However, this phrase has, when it was inscribed onto parchment, had a series of caveats and implications that do not become readily apparent even while wearing Benjamin Franklin's varicolored spectacles. Codified limitations existed for women regarding the ability to vote or the acquisition of property. Compromises were made so that individuals with melanated skin, or even those of fair complexion whose ancestry could be traced to such a melanated person, so that they only counted as 3/5 of a person. And worse yet, there is the perspective that indigenous humans are incapable of sophisticated thought or creative expression, as well as a complete lack of civility and decorum. The appellation of merciless savages is in the indictment section of that very same Declaration of Independence, and it attests just how inhumane humanity can be. But while governments across the world are complicit and culpable in systemic oppressions, their devastation is hardly possible without the efforts of belief. In many cases, this belief is tied to a religion, but not always so. One constant that I can tell you is that the oppression of others is tied to how one group perceives another. Justice Thomas was perceived to be unintelligent because he had issues expressing where the rain in Spain fell. My grandfather got sent to Carlisle Indian School because they could kill the Indian in him even though he told them he was a human being. Now, as I said, we need to periodically reassess how we relate. Right intention, right action, right speech with one another to ensure that we connect in a wholesome and positive manner with those in the beloved community that exists beyond the walls of our congregations. There are different reasons that people have done atrocious things in the world who still do atrocious things. How we remember the past and how we engage the present tells us a lot about the future we build. While my committed involvement with Unitarian Universalism is relatively new, I have seen and even experienced how systemic oppressions impact our tradition. Some are as blatant and audacious as harmful interactions with the church staff, but others are as oblivious and bumbling as Henry Higgins is at the beginning of My Fair Lady. If the notion that our tradition is imperfect makes you uncomfortable, then I challenge you to sit with that feeling. There are plenty of places in our world where we can seek comfort and eloquence, many that allow you to sleep in on a Sunday morning. If you are unsettled by the notion that ministers might stop delivering sophisticated sermons on a consistent basis, well, bless your heart, because I done tell you that many of us ain't about that. We's fixing to help us some folk, and I reckon sooner we finish up, the more good trouble we done cause. But if what disturbs you is that a non-alignment of perspectives and effort amongst those in this congregation and across our larger faith is inhibiting us from properly living our values, then I invite you to journey with me to dismantle systemic oppression and rebuild our beloved community. Nunjwe, and blessings be.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell the story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
If you are ashamed of how you speak or are afraid to share the memories with those around you, if you are not carrying on the practices of those who came before, how can you expect the children that come after us to dream?
As is our custom each week, we speak words of hope together. Wherever you may be right now, I invite you to join us in saying our closing words of blessing. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings.